Hello everybody and welcome back to my garden. My name is Ashley and I garden here in Northern California, Zone 9B. So today I actually wanted to do something that I think is going to be fun. It's going to be a little bit of this or that comparison of similar plants that you might use in a similar application that might be more beneficial for one than the other. So let's just get started. And if you guys like this, I actually felt like it was quite fun to study and get organized and prepare for. So let me know, and maybe this will be the first of many to come. So the first plants that we are going to be comparing is this beauty right behind me. This is a potato vine, and it is just gorgeous. It is actually one of my favorite features here in our back garden. It provides us complete privacy and security. It just feels like a very private, like little nestled cocoon back here with just sheltered in greenery, which is just the dream, right? So this actually was inherited. We did not pick this vine, and this trellis actually came with the house. When we purchased our house many years ago, this trellis was already here, and there were 5 potato vines planted along the bases of the trellis. When we redid this patio and put our pool in several years ago, we actually lost 3 of these potato vines. So the ones right behind me that you're seeing, this one, and the one right there, they actually had to be replaced. And we replaced them 2 years ago. So this is, we replaced them at the beginning of last year's growing season. So they had last year's growing season and this year's growing season. And as you can see, they have filled in beautifully. They really grew in so much faster than I ever dreamt that they would. I have not really had to trim them. I've had to limb them up little bits here and there and kind of keep them going in the right direction, but very little maintenance overall. They are not very frost hardy. So they are technically, many places say you can safely grow them in zone 9 to 11. But some sources say that they're a little bit more cold hardy than that. So maybe if you live in a zone 8, I would encourage you to give these a try. And even if you live in a colder zone, honestly, because of how beautiful they are and how they perform even in just one growing season and the cost of them, honestly, the small potato vines are like 10, 15 bucks, for the little quart size or pint size amount. And you know what? You get a lot of bang for your buck in one growing season to just treat it like an annual. Or you could put it in a pot and put it in the winter for the season, or try just throwing some frost cloth over it. And, if you could try to preserve this potato vine or even just grow it for 1 year, I would highly recommend it because it is just so beautiful. It is completely filled out this trellis. You really can't even tell the older plants from the newer plants. I have very little maintenance to do over them. It actually has won the Star of Merit from the RHS. And it overall is just a very easy, low maintenance plant to trellis with. It's very good for privacy. As you can see, it's very dense. The only thing that I would say is it wouldn't be good for an espalier because it just it's more like a shrubby climber, meaning it grows up and kind of has a lot of body at the top. I don't think that it would be ideal if you were going to be trellising it, because I think in that circumstance, it would be a little bit more difficult to manage. But on a trellis or a wall or an arbor, I think that it would be absolutely perfect and really give you a lot of visual interest and a lot of growth and blooms in your first growing season. And as you can see also, it is full of flowers. It has a big bloom, I would say mid to late spring. It has a big boom where it is just covered in white. And then for the rest of the year, the growing season, it is just constantly throwing out beautiful flowers. They are non-fragrant flowers, unlike the jasmine, but they are pretty continuous and pretty consistent with their blooming. So the star jasmine, also called the Confederate jasmine, I have grown it for many years, and I would say, so it's a little bit more frost hardy. Those are for zones 8 to 11, but also still doesn't like frost, just like the potato vine. They say that you can overwinter it in a pot. I personally don't feel like it's worth doing that because of the growth rate. So the first year you're going to buy the jasmine, it's really not going to do anything. It's not going to put on any growth. The saying for star jasmine is sleep creep and leap. I have had many of these jasmines and I have them in different locations and settings. So I have one of them up in the woodland garden, and that one gets dappled shade. And I have another one in the Dahlia Way border that they are both the same age. They're both 3 years old. And I would say that we have yet to reach the leaping stage. They have beautiful glossy leaves. When you prune on them, they do release a sap, so gloves are necessary because that sap just gets really sticky. They bloom once a year, and for us, it's usually around May time that they put on a beautiful flush. Those flowers' fragrance, though, are just so beautiful. The smell of jasmine there is just nothing like it. It is so aromatic. It could be used on a ground cover. It could be used on a trellis like this. Just know that it will take a lot more time to reach this kind of privacy and screening compared to something like this potato vine. So from my experience, it's a very slow grower. It does have beautiful fragrant flowers. Those flowers, it may throw out another bloom very occasionally, very, very occasionally, but it's pretty much, these are both evergreens. And so it does have that lovely dark green glossy foliage all year round, but you know, your one flush of flowers, as fragrant and beautiful as they are, it really is a one and done kind of specimen. It does, however, do better on espaliers than something like the potato vine right behind me, because it is such a slow grower that you really can control it quite easily and train it and have a more neater, tidier appearance on something like an espalier. So I would say if you were going to be using an espalier plant, then the jasmine would be the one. But I think genuinely in all other applications, I have just been blown away by my potato vine here. And if it wasn't chosen for me, I don't know if I ever would have discovered it. I mean, some things I just think suffer from lack of a good marketing team or PR, but you know, I think that jasmine just has such a beautiful romantic name to it, and a potato vine, unfortunately, it just doesn't. And I think that not enough people are using it or trying it, because I think this one is definitely worthwhile, and I would love to see it more places than this. All right, and so for our next comparing and contrasting, we are going to be talking about the North Pole versus the lemon cypress. So the lemon cypress, we'll start with that one. That one, it gets to be, depending on where you're reading and what your resources are, anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15 feet tall by about 3 to 5 feet wide. So it's narrower than the North Pole. However, it does have a more naturally dense conical, not conical, it has a more pyramidal shape to it with very little pruning involved. All of my lemon cypresses, I actually, unless I'm topiarying them, I actually haven't pruned them at all. They are hardy from zone 7 to 10, and so they can deal with a little bit of frost. However, they are not the most frost hardy, and they are typically known as like the Christmas tree. They're like the Christmas season plant, especially here in California. When Christmas time rolls around, you know, they are just flooding the marketplaces, and that's usually where I pick them up, and I usually try to get a good amount. So I take them in, I topiary them. They're super cute little tabletop decorations during the holiday season, and then I come and pot them outside. And the one in the pot and the one on the side of the house there, they are actually ones that I got this following Christmas time, and then put them in the ground in the spring, and they have already grown maybe 2 feet each. Genuinely, they grow so quickly. The one in the east garden there is well over 6-7 feet tall, and that was actually from the year before. So this is only a second growing season in the ground, and it went from like a pint-sized little cute tabletop Christmas tree to being a full-blown beautiful specimen plant. So how can you use these? First of all, the lemon cypress is named lemon cypress because if you rub its branches together, it has that like classic lemon citrus, just such a fresh, beautiful scent to it. And it is just lovely. It could be used as a specimen, a one-off plant to highlight an area, or it can be used as a hedge because it actually really does grow quite densely. So it would be a wonderful hedge. It is a lighter green, more chartreusey kind of coloring to it, which I just find beautiful. So if you have have a lot of, darker greens, it really is a wonderful contrasting color to add to your garden. And they take up less space than the North Poles do. But they are definitely worth considering if you can overwinter them, or if you live in a zone 7 or above. They are just beautiful to pop into the garden and not toss out at the end of your holiday season. And I think that they are really worth it. So the North Poles, those ones are a little bit more cold hardy. Those are zones 3 to 7. So you may be wondering, why do I have so many of them if I'm a zone 9? Clearly, I think that they can handle more heat than maybe they originally were given credit for, and I think that they should adjust that. Or maybe our zone 9 here in California, we're not a humid heat, so we just keep them well watered. They have direct irrigation, so they get irrigated every day, and they have just done beautifully. They have grown several feet. They are very fast growers as well, so I would say they were between 4 and 5 feet when we put that hedge in, and the one that's next to the lemon cypress on the side of the house. They were, between 4 and 5 feet, not quite as tall as me, and I'm 5'4". So they have definitely put on several feet in the 2 years. It's been 2 falls ago that I planted them. They have been wonderfully low maintenance. They have more of a conical shape. So if you look at the top, they less pyramidal, more conical, wonderful for hedging. I'm using it as a specimen plant as well, so great for a specimen plant. They have such a beautiful dark green foliage. I have all kinds of plans about taking them in and actually making my first wreath with them this year. So hopefully I'll be able to do that with them and get some nice cuttings from them. But they are absolutely beautiful. I actually love both of them. I couldn't choose between the two. I think that they both have their settings and their place, and I actually love growing them next to each other because of the contrast between the two. I think that they are just a wonderful, lovely complement between the two of them. But if you're short on space and time, I would say the lemon cypress is probably a little bit easier. It needs really no pruning or shaping to have a beautiful Christmas tree shape to it, and it just takes up just a slightly smaller footprint. But we're comparing very similar items. The North Poles get to be about 10 to 15 feet tall by about 4 to 5 feet wide. So mine in the front that I did a privacy screen with aren't quite completely filled in or touching yet, but hopefully in the next couple of years they will get to that point. So both are beautiful. Both I highly recommend and think that you can't go wrong. But try them both. I think that you won't be disappointed. And the next plants that we will be comparing will be the Amistad Salvia versus the Rockin, the Playin, the Blues by proven winners. So we'll start with the Amistad. The Amistad is hardy for zones 8 through 10. It grows 3 to 5 feet tall by about 4 to 6 feet wide. It is an attractor for bees, hummingbirds, butterflies, because they have beautiful calyx-shaped blooms. They're actually wonderful for hummingbirds, and I've noticed particularly that they do love them. So one of the wonderful things about the Amistad, this is my first year growing it, and I have to say that I am incredibly impressed by its stature, its presence in the garden, and the foliage on it, and just the shape of the foliage. It has more upward facing leaves to it, and they tend to just blow in the breeze. It also is a little bit more stately. It's a little bit more grand because it is a little bit taller, and it is a wonderful complement to, you would use it really in the same kind of setting or application that you would the Rockin, the Playin, the Blues, because they're very similar, like dark blue, dark purple coloring to them. So they are very similar, but this is my first year growing the Amistad, and I am blown away. Another benefit to the Amistad is that it really doesn't need deadheading. It has been one of the easiest plants that I put into the ground. It is so sturdy. It really does not flop over. There has been no drooping, no sagging, no falling over whatsoever on any of its branches, which to me is just remarkable, especially at this point in the year where everything is a little bit droopy, everything is fallen over. We've had some rains recently and everything has just kind of collapsed under the pressure of it, but not the Amistad Salvia. That stuff is just made of something different. It really is just so beautiful and just keeps going. Also, when the flowers get old, I have found that I haven't had the need to deadhead because the calyxes remain and they are so beautiful. It doesn't have the look of old or dead or dried blooms to it that doesn't make me, you know, like a lot of other plants out here that I'm out here deadheading and working on. It is just beautiful. It really needs no maintenance. It really is truly one of those plant it and forget it and just enjoy it and appreciate it for its low maintenance, just statuesque kind of beauty that it brings to the garden. And I love planting it. I plan on actually replacing the Playin the Blue Salvia that's right here around the hydrangeas, because these Playin the Blue Salvias are just draping all over it. They're beautiful, but you know, I want something that is just going to hold up a little bit better and be a little bit sturdier. So the Playin the Blue Salvia, I do love this one as well. And, you know, it is really gorgeous and it has beautiful spiky blooms to it. It's a little bit more cold hardy. Rockin Playin the Blue Salvia is hardy from zone 7 to 10. It's a little bit shorter, so it gets to be about 2 to 4 feet tall by about 2 to 3 feet wide. So a little bit shorter of a presence in the garden. It's also an attractor for the same wildlife, so bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. And I have noticed especially that the bees love it. I haven't really noticed the hummingbirds on it like I have with the Amistad Salvia. And so the thing about this one that I've noticed after growing the two, I have had to come in and put supports under it. Maybe, especially around the hydrangeas, it really has been droopy, and it is beautiful and I loved it. But after having a full growing season with the Amistad, I'm definitely going to replace them with the Amistad around this area. I love the color complements. The colors are very similar. Like I said, you would use them in the same kind of accent piece or combination of plantings and groupings. But it definitely is... but it definitely is droopier, and I don't know if it's just that this is a half day. By the time the sun gets overhead, it's in shade. So it really only gets maybe 6 to 8 hours of morning to mid-afternoon sunlight. So maybe it's the location, but I do have them in some other places in the garden, and they don't seem to have the same drooping problem, but they also aren't as big or as kind of grand and elegant as the Amistad is. So I would say if you were to force me to pick between the two, I would definitely say that I have been blown away by the Amistad Salvia this year, and I am so glad that I gave it a try, because that is one of my favorite new discoveries this year. The only thing that is yet to be seen is, will it come back for me? Because I have had many salvias like the Rose Marvel Salvia. Notice there's none of it in my garden right now, but I know I had several of them last season. And I even wait until late spring to clip everything back and cut all the dead off so that there isn't any more frost and I don't cut them too short or anything to allow rotting to happen at the root base with the root ball, but still I have lost them. So that's a rabbit hole for another day. If you guys would like a video on the salvias that I have tried out and experienced, we can do that as well. That would be really fun. So the next comparison that we are going to be doing is between the Nelly Stevens Holly and the Oakland Holly. Now I have both of them in my garden and I love both of them and they are really wonderful. But this really is like, they are just slightly different. So I think that depending on the application and how you would want to use them is really going to determine what you should be selecting for what kind of project and what kind of planting that you're planning. First, let's take a look at the Oakland Holly. So Oakland Holly is cold hardy down to zone 6, and it is slightly smaller than the Nelly Stevens. So it grows to about 12 to 20 feet tall. However, it can be very much size controlled. So keep that in mind. If you want to keep it a shorter specimen plant near your home, you're more than able to do that. And it gets to be about 8 to 15 feet wide. So it has a denser, more pyramidal growth habit to it. So it naturally grows into that beautiful classic kind of Christmas tree shape. And it is actually really good for privacy screening because of the density of its leaf formation. In the spring, it blooms out these beautiful white flowers. And as they age and turn into the fall and into the winter season, there are these these beautiful reddish orange berries on them. They are absolutely beautiful. So gorgeous winter interests, and because they're evergreen, you know, they keep their form all season long, and they don't actually need a male pollinator to do this. So Oakland hollies are self-pollinating, and they take very well to pruning. So of course you don't have to let it grow up to be a 25-foot tree. For the ones that I have here, I'm planning on keeping them in the 10 to 12-foot range, and we'll just see about that when we get there. And I am using them as a privacy screening. I currently have 2 of them. The one that is in the pot right now, she has beautiful aged flowers on them, and it's tempting to kind of dust them all off, but just think those are going to turn into those beautiful reddy orange berries very soon for us. So because she is looking a little aged, she is showing me this growing season that she's looking pretty tired in there. So I'm actually going to be moving her out into the front garden, and I think that she's going to grow a lot better there. I haven't seen a lot of growth come on her. She's definitely bigger than when I got her last year. However, I think that she's outgrown her pot, and it's time to put her in the landscape. And I think that it's just going to be absolutely beautiful when she gets a little bit taller, stringing her with some Christmas lights and, you know, having her own little Christmas tree in the front garden. And I have another one out there currently that is in recovery that I need to move to a sunnier spot. So both Nelly Stevens and Oakland hollies do best in full sun. They don't seem to blink at the heat. The one that I have on the back patio in the container here, she is in full sun from sun up to sundown, and she just does beautifully. And now we are going to compare this one to the Nelly Stevens holly. Now, the Nelly Stevens holly is a classic. She is beautiful. She is statuesque. She is also hardy in zone 6 to 9. She can be a specimen planting or used in a screening. She is harder. She is more thorny and prickly than the Oakland holly. The Oakland holly looks like it would be tough to touch, but it's actually very soft and delicate. Now, Nelly Stevens holly is less dense growing and more of a conical shape than the Oakland holly is, but you can also shape it. She takes very well to pruning as well. She can grow up to being 30 feet tall and 25 feet wide. However, you do not have to let them do that. You can size control it and keep them in the shape and proportions that you would like. They are very fast growing, so you just might have to be out pruning, you know, once or twice a year to make sure that, you know, it stays in the confinement that you are wishing for. So they also get red berries, but they need a pollinator for this. So I actually haven't really noticed, and mine might just be too young. I haven't actually seen any berries on them, and I did get them the season before last. So this is my second season with them. They are still really small, and I only put them out in the front garden this last fall. Before that, they were living in my little nursery that I have tucked away next to the compost pile here. So I'm hoping that now that they are in the East Garden and they are in a full sun location, that they will really start to take off and really put on some size. Yes, I have chosen to put the Nelly Stevens hollies on the side of the East Garden because I think that they are going to kind of grow together, and I kind of want to keep a more dome shape. They can also be trained up into they can be limbed up into trees. A lot of people use them that way. You can keep them smaller as a specimen plant next to your home as a foundation planting. Really, the sky's the limit. You can do anything with Nelly Stevens hollies and Oakland hollies. So I would just say basically the big comparison with them is that Nelly Stevens holly is a little bit looser, not as dense, but it takes up more space. Both take excellently to pruning, size controlling, and shaping, but the Oakland holly is going to have that more natural kind of pyramidal Christmas tree-like shape, whereas the Nelly Stevens holly, you're going to have to work with it a little bit more. But if you have a big space and you want her to take up that space, and, you know, you can plant a beautiful hedge, and, you know, it's beautiful in that application and setting. So both are extremely beautiful. Both I have in my garden, and I'm absolutely loving and enjoying and looking forward to the years to come with them growing in and taking shape. So this has been actually really fun doing this or that, or plant comparison with you guys. If you have any more that you would like me to do, just let me know. This was a really fun video to put together, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining me.